The night was cold and silent around the small desert town where the human military base stood. Hidden behind tall fences and glowing warning signs, the base was known for one thing: experiments that no one outside was ever allowed to see. Soldiers whispered about strange lights in the underground labs, about scientists working on secret projects meant to change the future of human defense. But that night, something even stranger happened. Far above the base, a small silver pod tore through the clouds and crashed in the nearby dunes. It wasn't a meteor. It was an escape pod from a distant planet. Inside was a young alien girl named Lyra. She was small, with pale skin that shimmered under the moonlight and bright silver eyes that reflected everything she saw. She had been running from something terrible on her home planet, a war that had destroyed her city and taken her family. The pod was her only hope to find safety. When the crash stopped, smoke rose from the sand. Lyra stepped out, weak but alive. Her heart pounded as she looked around. The air was heavy and strange. The ground felt rough beneath her bare feet. This world was different, loud, bright, and dangerous. She didn't know it yet, but she had landed right next to one of Earth's most heavily guarded military bases. For hours she wandered the desert, trying to find water. Her body needed it desperately, and her pod had run out of supplies. As the sun began to rise, she spotted a building far in the distance. She didn't know it was part of the military facility. She only saw a metal structure that might have what she needed. So she walked toward it. At the same time, inside that building, two scientists were preparing to test a new serum. They called it Project Helix, a chemical created to boost human strength, speed, and mental focus. It was meant for soldiers, but the side effects were still unknown. The lead scientist, Dr. Rachel Voss, warned everyone to stay careful. 1. Wrong dose, she said, and the reaction could be unpredictable. When Lyra reached the building, she hid behind some crates and waited. Her curiosity grew as she saw humans in white coats moving around with glass tubes filled with glowing blue liquid. The light reminded her of the energy sources on her home planet. It felt familiar and safe. Her throat was dry and her hands trembled. She didn't understand their language, but she saw one of the scientists leave a small bottle of that glowing liquid on the table before walking away. Lyra thought it was water. Her instincts told her to take it. She waited until the humans left the room, then quietly slipped inside. Every sound in the lab echoed: the hum of machines, the buzz of lights, the soft beep of monitors. She moved carefully, her eyes scanning everything with wonder. She had never seen human technology up close before. Her fingers brushed against the cold surface of the table. The small bottle looked harmless, just a clear tube filled with blue liquid. She picked it up, looked through it, and then sniffed it. It had no smell. Her throat burned with thirst and she couldn't resist anymore. Slowly, she opened the cap and took a sip. The moment the liquid touched her tongue, she froze. It didn't taste like water. It was metallic, strange, and warm. Within seconds, her body began to react. Her heartbeat grew faster and her eyes glowed brighter. She stumbled back, dropping the empty bottle. Blue light ran through the veins in her hands, spreading quickly through her body. She gasped, trying to steady herself, but the energy inside her only grew stronger. She didn't understand what was happening. Her body temperature rose, her skin felt electric. Her mind filled with flashes, memories of her planet mixed with new sensations she couldn't explain. She could suddenly hear the hum of machines, miles away, feel the vibrations in the floor, sense the movement of air itself. Her alien physiology was reacting to the human serum in ways the scientists had never imagined. Outside the room, alarms started to go off. The lab sensors had detected unauthorized movement and a biochemical reaction in the air. Soldiers began to rush toward the lab. Lyra panicked. Her legs trembled, but at the same time she felt a strange strength building inside her. She looked at her reflection in a metal panel. Her eyes now glowed like twin suns. The serum had changed something deep inside her. She didn't know whether it was a gift or a curse. The door burst open and soldiers stormed in, pointing their weapons. Startled, Lyra raised her hands and a wave of blue light burst from her palms, pushing everyone backward. The air cracked with energy. Equipment shattered, lights flickered, and glass exploded everywhere. She hadn't meant to hurt anyone, she just didn't know how to control it. Dr. Voss arrived seconds later, staring in disbelief. "What happened?" she shouted. "She drank the serum," one soldier yelled, pulling himself off the floor. Dr. Voss looked at Lyra, shocked by her glowing eyes and trembling hands. "That's impossible," she whispered. "The formula wasn't meant for human use yet, let alone her." Lyra couldn't understand their words, but she saw fear in their faces. She backed away slowly, tears in her eyes. The power inside her wouldn't calm down. It felt like a storm raging through her veins. She turned and ran out through the broken wall, disappearing into the desert before the soldiers could stop her. By the time the sun rose higher, she was miles away, alone, frightened but alive. The serum had given her more than just strength. It had awakened something deep inside her, something she didn't understand yet. And behind her, in the secret base, Dr. Voss stared at the glowing blue residue left on the lab floor. "Find her," she told the soldiers, "before the serum spreads, or before she realizes what she can do." The hunt had begun. Lyra ran as fast as she could through the endless desert. Her bare feet touched the hot sand, but she didn't feel pain anymore. Her body moved with strange new strength, and every breath filled her with energy that didn't seem to run out. But that same power frightened her. She didn't understand it, and every time she tried to calm down, blue sparks flickered across her hands. Behind her, military drones flew low across the sky, their red lights scanning the ground. The humans were looking for her. She didn't know why they were chasing her, but she felt their fear even from far away. Her mind, somehow sharper now, could sense things she couldn't before, like vibrations in the air or the movement of vehicles miles away. After hours of running, she reached a rocky area where old ruins stood half buried in sand. Broken walls, rusted metal, and faded symbols surrounded her. She hid inside what looked like an old storage shelter. Her hands shook as she pressed them to her chest. Her heart raced like a drum. She looked at her reflection in a piece of broken glass on the floor. Her eyes were still glowing faintly blue, and the veins on her arms shimmered with light whenever she breathed deeply. "What is happening to me?" she whispered in her alien language. For the first time since the crash, she felt truly alone. She missed her planet, her family, the gentle blue forests she once called home. Now she was a stranger in a strange world, hunted by people who didn't even know who she was. As the day grew hotter, she fell asleep inside the shelter. When she woke, it was evening. The sky burned orange with sunset. Hunger hit her like a wave, but she didn't know what food on this planet was safe. So she decided to move again, quietly and carefully. Meanwhile, back at the base, Dr. Rachel Voss stood in the main control room staring at the live satellite feed. They had tracked the alien's movement for several miles before losing her signal near the ruins. Soldiers surrounded the area now, waiting for orders. One of the officers, Captain Aaron Cross, turned to Dr. Voss. "Ma'am, we can't approach without knowing what that serum did to her. The explosion in the lab wasn't normal energy, it was something else." Dr. Voss nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "The serum was designed to boost human cells," she said slowly. "But in an alien body, it might have rewritten her DNA entirely. If that's true, she's more powerful than any of us imagined." Aaron frowned. "Then we should neutralize her before she becomes a threat." Dr. Voss shook her head. "No, she's not a weapon. She's a living being who made a mistake. We need to understand what's happening to her before we decide anything." Aaron wasn't convinced, but he followed orders. He gathered a small team to approach the ruins carefully. As night fell, Lyra watched from the shadows. She could see the lights of soldiers' helmets far away. She knew they were searching for her. A voice inside her mind told her to run again, but another voice, a new one, told her to stand her ground. It wasn't arrogance. It was instinct. Something about the serum made her feel stronger, braver. She wasn't helpless anymore. She took a deep breath and focused. The air around her shimmered faintly as the blue energy gathered in her hands. When she released it, a faint pulse rippled through the sand. To her surprise, the signal bounced back to her like an echo. She could sense where every soldier was standing. It was like she could see through the ground. Lyra's eyes widened. "I can feel them," she whispered. She moved silently through the ruins, avoiding every patrol with perfect precision. Her movements were quick and graceful. She didn't know how she was doing it. It was as if her body had learned something new overnight. At the same time, Dr. Voss and Aaron reached the outer edge of the ruins. The doctor carried a scanning device trying to locate any trace of the alien. "She's close," she whispered. "The readings are off the charts." Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew through the area, lifting sand into the air. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Lyra appeared only for a second, her eyes glowing softly, her expression both frightened and determined. "Wait," Dr. Voss shouted, raising her hand. "Don't fire!" The soldiers hesitated, but Aaron stepped forward cautiously. "We're not here to hurt you," he said loudly, though he knew she couldn't understand. "We just want to talk." Lyra tilted her head. The words meant nothing to her, but his tone sounded softer than the others. Still, her heart pounded. She took a step back, ready to run, but Dr. Voss spoke again, slowly, carefully. "Please," she said, pointing to herself. "Rachel, friend." Lyra blinked. The word friend triggered something in her memory. Her father used to use a similar word in their language when meeting allies. Maybe this woman wasn't lying. Still, Lyra stayed cautious. Suddenly, a loud noise broke the moment. A drone above them malfunctioned and fired a flare by mistake. The bright light scared Lyra, and her body reacted before she could think. A wave of blue energy exploded outward, sending everyone sprawling into the sand. When she opened her eyes again, the soldiers were unconscious. Only Dr. Voss and Aaron were awake, staring at her in shock. Lyra looked horrified by what she had done. She shook her head, took a step back, and then ran into the darkness once again. Aaron groaned, brushing sand from his jacket. "Still think she's harmless?" Dr. Voss didn't answer. Her eyes followed the fading blue glow in the distance. "She's not dangerous," she said quietly. "She's scared." That night, Lyra climbed a high ridge and looked at the sky. The stars above Earth looked different from those on her home planet, but she could still find a few familiar constellations. She touched the glowing mark on her wrist where the serum had entered her veins. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. "What are you doing to me?" she whispered to herself. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from confusion. She didn't know it yet, but the serum was doing more than giving her power. It was connecting her to something hidden deep within the planet. Something the humans had buried long ago. And as the wind howled across the dunes, Lyra made a quiet promise to herself. She would find out what the serum was, why it was made, and how to control it before anyone else got hurt. Somewhere below the surface, deep in the military's underground vaults, the alarms continued to flash red. The serum inside Lyra wasn't just reacting, it was awakening. The night after the ruins incident, Lyra traveled far across the desert until she reached the edge of a quiet human town. Lights from houses glowed in the distance, and the air smelled of dust and smoke. Her feet ached, and her strength was fading. Even though the serum gave her power, her body still needed rest and food. She found a small abandoned barn near the town and decided to hide there. Inside, she sat against a pile of hay, breathing heavily. Her hands still shimmered faintly blue when she looked at them. The strange energy inside her felt alive, sometimes warm, sometimes restless, like it wanted to move on its own. For a while, she listened to the sounds of this new world, cars passing by, dogs barking, people laughing somewhere far away. It felt peaceful compared to the chaos of the base. She wondered if all humans were like the soldiers she met, or if some were kind. Early in the morning, a sound outside startled her. Footsteps. Lyra froze and looked toward the open barn door. A boy about her age, perhaps 16, walked in, holding a basket of tools. He stopped when he saw her. His eyes widened. "Whoa, who are you?" Lyra didn't move. She didn't understand his words, but his tone wasn't angry. He looked surprised, not dangerous. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said carefully, raising his hands to show he had no weapon. "You look lost." Lyra tilted her head. Her voice was soft and uncertain. "Lost?" she repeated, her accent strange but clear enough for him to understand the single word. The boy smiled slightly. "Yeah, lost. You from around here?" She didn't answer. She didn't know what around here meant. Instead, her stomach growled quietly and the boy laughed gently. "Okay, I get it. You're hungry." He reached into his bag and pulled out a piece of bread. Lyra looked at it suspiciously at first, then slowly took it. She sniffed it, then ate a small bite. It tasted dry but good. Her eyes brightened. "See?" the boy said kindly. Safe. He sat down across from her. I'm Theo, he said, pointing to himself. Theo. Lyra hesitated, then pointed to herself. Lyra. Thera. He tried to repeat, smiling awkwardly. She laughed a little and shook her head. Lyra, he grinned. Lyra. Okay. It was the first time since she'd landed that she laughed. For a few minutes, the tension melted away. Theo didn't ask too many questions. He could tell something was different about her eyes, her pale skin, but he didn't seem afraid. Later, when the sun rose, Theo brought her some water and an old blanket. You can stay here for a while, he said. But my dad works nearby, so you'll have to stay quiet. Lyra nodded gratefully. Thank you, she said softly. Over the next few days, Theo taught her simple words. Food, water, friend, danger. Lyra learned quickly. Her alien memory helped her remember every sound perfectly. She also told him small things about her world, using gestures and broken English. She drew shapes in the dirt, her home's glowing forests, the twin moons in her sky, and the ship that had brought her here. Theo listened with wonder. One night, as they sat near a lantern, Theo asked carefully, Are you running from the army? Lyra looked down. They chase me, she said. Scared, Theo nodded. They do that a lot here, too. He didn't ask more, but inside he worried. He had seen strange news on his father's TV. Military alerts, stories about a dangerous intruder who caused a lab explosion. The picture was blurry, but he recognized the glowing blue eyes. It was Lyra. He didn't tell her what he'd seen. He didn't want to scare her more. But he knew it was only a matter of time before they found her again. Meanwhile, back at the base, Dr. Rachel Voss stood in front of a large screen filled with data charts. The serum readings were unstable. It's evolving, she said quietly. Her body isn't just reacting, it's adapting the serum, rewriting it. Captain Aaron crossed his arms. You mean it's learning? Exactly, Voss said. If we don't reach her soon, the serum might connect her to something bigger. The original formula came from an alien artifact we found decades ago. If she's merging with it, we could be facing something beyond our control. Aaron looked serious. Then we have to bring her in. Alive if possible. Dr. Voss nodded. Alive only. She didn't ask for this. Back in the town, Lyra began to feel strange again. Her energy flared up randomly. Lights flickered near her. Metal objects vibrated when she got emotional, and sometimes she could hear whispers in her mind. It wasn't just voices. It was like signals, waves of sound and light connecting to something deep underground. One evening, while Theo went to get food, Lyra stood outside the barn, staring at the sky. Her hands glowed faintly blue. Suddenly, she saw flashes in her mind, a place buried under the earth filled with machines and symbols she didn't recognize. It wasn't a dream. It felt like a memory being sent to her. She gasped, clutching her head. The vision showed a massive underground chamber with a large sphere pulsing with the same blue energy as the serum. Then she saw something else. Dr. Voss standing near it, working on a project labeled Helix Origin. Lyra stumbled back, breathing hard. They made it, she whispered. They found my world's energy. When Theo returned, he found her pale and shaking. Lyra, what happened? She looked at him with frightened eyes. I see. Inside the earth, she said, pointing down. Blue power. Theo frowned, confused. Inside the earth? What do you mean? She couldn't explain properly, but she tried. The serum, same power, they took it. Theo realized she was talking about the military project. Maybe it wasn't just a human invention. Maybe they had found something alien long ago and used it to make their weapon. Before they could talk more, a distant sound echoed through the air. Helicopters. The barn shook slightly. Theo looked out the window and saw bright lights scanning the fields. They found you, he whispered. Lyra's heart raced. Her hands began to glow brighter as fear mixed with instinct. Go, she told Theo. You safe. I'm not leaving you, he said. She looked at him sadly. Friend, she said softly. Thank you, but I must go. Before he could stop her, Lyra ran out into the open field. The helicopter's spotlights locked onto her instantly. Soldiers shouted through megaphones demanding she surrender. She raised her hands, her eyes glowing like twin stars. The ground trembled beneath her feet. The serum's energy surged again, forming waves of light that rippled through the air. Dr. Voss watched from one of the aircrafts, her heart pounding. Don't fire, she shouted. "She's trying to protect herself." But one nervous soldier fired a tranquilizer dart. It missed, hitting the ground. But the sound triggered another surge of energy from Lyra. Blue light exploded outward, knocking down several vehicles. She gasped in pain and fell to her knees. For the first time, the power felt too heavy to control. Dr. Voss jumped from the aircraft and ran toward her, ignoring orders. "Lyra," she yelled, "stop! You'll hurt yourself." Lyra looked up weakly, recognizing her. Her eyes flickered. "Help me," she whispered. And then everything went white. A massive wave of blue light burst across the field, blinding everyone. When the light faded, Lyra and Dr. Voss were gone. Only a crater of glowing sand remained, pulsing like a heartbeat under the moonlight. When the blinding light faded, silence filled the air. The desert wind blew softly over the field that had once been filled with soldiers and helicopters. Now, there was only a deep crater, glowing faintly blue beneath the moonlight. The soldiers stood frozen, shielding their eyes. Captain Aaron rushed forward, shouting, "Where are they? Where's Dr. Voss?" But there was no answer. The scanners showed strange readings, strong energy waves coming from underground, but no sign of life on the surface. "They're gone," one of the soldiers said quietly. Aaron stared at the crater. "No," he whispered. "They're not gone. That energy, she must have transported them somewhere." He turned to the technicians. "Trace it now, find out where they went." Beneath the desert, deep inside the earth, Lyra and Dr. Rachel Voss slowly regained consciousness. They were lying on a metallic floor that shimmered faintly in the dim blue light. Around them stretched a massive underground chamber, filled with ancient machines that hummed quietly. Lyra opened her eyes first. The glow from her veins had dimmed, but it was still there, pulsing gently. She sat up, confused but unharmed. Then she saw Dr. Voss nearby, unconscious but breathing. Lyra crawled to her side and gently shook her shoulder. Dr. Voss groaned softly, blinking. "What happened?" Lyra looked around, her voice trembling. Underground." The doctor sat up and stared in awe. "This place," she whispered. "It's real. The Helix Chamber. It's been here all along." The walls were covered with glowing symbols that looked like a mix of alien writing and human engineering. In the center of the room stood a large sphere, floating slightly above the floor. It pulsed with the same blue light that glowed inside Lyra's body. Lyra stepped closer. The sphere reacted to her presence. Its surface rippled like water, and faint whispers echoed through the air, speaking in her language. Her eyes widened. "It knows me," she said softly. Dr. Voss followed carefully, scanning the air with her device. "This must be the original energy source," she murmured. "The one we found decades ago. The one we built the serum from." Lyra touched the sphere gently. The moment her hand met its surface, the room filled with light. Images flashed around them, scenes from another world, Lyra's home planet. Beautiful blue forests, shining cities, and skies filled with twin moons. Dr. Voss gasped. "That's your world." Lyra nodded slowly, tears forming in her eyes. "My home," she whispered, "gone because of war." The images changed again, showing humans discovering the same blue energy deep under Earth's surface many years ago. The humans had tried to study it, to use it for weapons. The sphere had been sleeping until then, but their experiments had awakened a small part of it, the part that was now inside Lyra. Dr. Voss stepped closer to the sphere, her face pale. "We didn't create the serum," she said softly. "We stole it from something that belongs to you." Lyra looked at her, confused. "Stole?" Voss nodded sadly. "Your world's energy. It fell to Earth long ago, maybe before humans even existed. My team thought it was a new element. We didn't understand it was alive." Lyra's hand trembled on the sphere. "Alive?" "Yes," Voss said. "The energy isn't just power, it's consciousness. It remembers, it learns, and now it's connected to you." Suddenly, the floor began to shake. The lights flickered, and the sphere's glow turned brighter. A deep hum filled the air like a heartbeat. Lyra stepped back. "What's happening?" Voss looked at her scanner. "Your energy is syncing with it. It's reacting to your emotions. You have to stay calm." But Lyra couldn't. The flood of memories from the sphere overwhelmed her. Her planet's destruction, the screams, the light swallowing her home. She cried out, covering her ears, but the voices grew louder inside her mind. Dr. Voss ran to her side and grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me, Lyra. You can control it. Focus. Lyra's breathing was fast and uneven. Too much. I can't stop it. You can, Voss said firmly. Because it's part of you now. It's listening to you. Tell it what you want. Lyra closed her eyes tightly, forcing herself to breathe. Slowly, the shaking began to stop. The blue light softened and the whispers faded into a calm hum. When she opened her eyes again, she was glowing softly, peacefully. The sphere hovered quietly, its surface calm once more. Dr. Voss smiled with relief. You did it. Lyra looked down at her hands. It listens. When I feel, Voss nodded. Yes, it reacts to your heart. That's why the soldiers saw it as dangerous. They didn't understand. But you do. For a moment, silence filled the chamber again. The air felt still, sacred. Then a faint crackle came from Dr. Voss's earpiece. It was Captain Aaron's voice. Doctor. We found your signal. Are you alive? Voss quickly responded. I'm here, Aaron. We're underground. There's something you need to see, something incredible. But don't send the troops yet. It's not hostile. Aaron's voice was tense. Understood. But the higher-ups want results, Doctor. They're preparing containment units. Tell them to wait, she said sharply. If they attack, they'll destroy everything. Lyra watched her carefully. She could tell the humans above didn't trust her. They come? She asked quietly. Yes, Voss said. But I'll protect you. I promise. Lyra hesitated, then gave a small nod. While they waited, the sphere began projecting new images, this time of Earth. It showed lines of energy running beneath the planet's surface like roots connecting to the sphere. It was as if Earth itself had been carrying this alien energy for centuries. Dr. Voss watched in amazement. It's part of our planet now, she said. Your world's energy has been sleeping inside ours all this time. Lyra looked at the glowing lines and whispered, Maybe. We are not so different. Before they could study more, a loud rumble echoed through the chamber. Machines above them started drilling down. Aaron's voice came through again, shouting, Doctor! They're sending recovery units. They think the alien's controlling you. Voss cursed under her breath. No. They're making a mistake. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. The blue light inside her began to pulse faster. They hurt me again? No, Voss said, standing in front of her protectively. I won't let them. The drilling got louder until a large metal capsule broke through the ceiling. Soldiers descended on ropes, aiming their weapons. The moment they saw Lyra, they shouted commands. Target spotted. Prepare to neutralize. Lyra backed away, her hands glowing brightly. No! She cried. Voss raised her arms, shouting, Stop! She's not your enemy. But one soldier fired a shot, not a bullet, but an energy pulse. It hit the ground near Lyra, and the impact triggered another wave of energy from her body. The sphere flared to life again, connecting its light to Lyra's. The whole chamber glowed brighter and brighter until it was almost blinding. Dr. Voss shielded her eyes. Lyra, listen to me. You can choose what happens next. Don't let the fear control you. Lyra looked around at the terrified humans, at Voss standing between them, at the sphere pulsing like a living heart. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and whispered, I will not fight. I will heal. The energy around her changed. Instead of exploding, it spread gently across the room, wrapping everyone in a warm, calm light. The soldiers lowered their weapons, confused but unharmed. When the light faded, Lyra stood in the center of the room, calm and steady. The sphere behind her floated quietly, its glow soft and peaceful. Dr. Voss smiled. You did it again. Lyra looked at her and whispered, I learn. For the first time, the humans and the alien stood together in silence. No weapons, no fear, just understanding. But deep within the sphere, something else began to stir, something older, larger, and not as peaceful. The energy that had once destroyed Lyra's world was beginning to wake again. The underground chamber was silent again. The air was heavy, glowing softly from the great blue sphere at the center. Lyra stood still, breathing quietly, her hands no longer trembling. Around her, the soldiers slowly lowered their weapons, confused but calm. Dr. Rachel Voss stepped forward carefully. It's okay, she said softly. Everyone's safe now. The soldiers looked at each other uncertainly, then at Lyra. She didn't seem like the dangerous creature they had imagined. Her eyes no longer burned with light. They shimmered gently, almost human. But deep inside the sphere, something darker began to stir. The faint hum that filled the air grew louder, deeper, like a heartbeat speeding up. The floor vibrated under their feet. Lyra turned her head toward the sphere. Her expression changed. Something waking, she whispered. Voss frowned. What do you mean? The heart, Lyra said slowly, pointing to the glowing core of the sphere. It remembers. Pain. The sphere's light flickered violently and images flashed across its surface. Memories from Lyra's world. Cities burning, skies breaking apart, and the same blue energy turning into storms that destroyed everything. The soldiers backed away, frightened. What's happening? Aaron shouted over the noise. Dr. Voss looked at her scanner, her eyes wide. The core is reacting to the serum inside Lyra. It's recognizing her as part of itself, but it's also remembering its own destruction. Lyra stepped closer to the sphere, feeling its energy pulling her in. It hurts, she said quietly. It thinks I am the war. Voss grabbed her arm. No, don't get too close. It's unstable. But Lyra shook her head. It needs peace. I can feel it. The soldiers tried to pull them back as the ground cracked and streams of blue light shot out like lightning, crawling along the walls. The chamber began to break apart. Stones fell from above and alarms blared through the underground base. Dr. Voss shouted, "We have to get out." Lyra looked back at her and said softly, "You go." "I stay." "What?" "No," Voss cried. "You'll be trapped." Lyra smiled faintly. "It listens to me. Maybe I can calm it. Maybe I can stop it before it wakes fully." Before anyone could stop her, she walked straight toward the sphere. The air shimmered around her like heat waves. The closer she got, the brighter the room became. Captain Aaron shouted, "We can't just leave her." Voss's voice trembled. "If she fails, this whole place will collapse. But if she succeeds, she might save us all." The soldiers hesitated, torn between fear and respect. Finally, Aaron nodded. "We'll give her time." Lyra stood before the sphere, only inches away from it now. The voices inside her mind grew louder, millions of echoes from her destroyed world. They weren't just sounds. They were memories, emotions, grief, and pain all mixed together. She closed her eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the energy. "I'm not your enemy. I am your child." She placed her hands on the sphere. A shock of light surrounded her, but she didn't pull back. The energy that had once frightened her now felt warm, familiar. The whispers softened. The sphere's light stopped flickering and began to glow evenly again. Inside the light, Lyra saw her planet as it once was, alive, peaceful, beautiful. Then she saw Earth struggling, divided, full of fear. Two worlds, different yet connected by the same energy. She understood now. The serum was never meant to be a weapon. It was meant to link hearts, to bring understanding between worlds. But fear had turned it into something dangerous. Lyra took a deep breath and spoke softly in her language. "No more fear. No more war. Rest." The energy around her pulsed once, twice, and then began to spread outward. The entire chamber filled with a warm blue light that flowed through the cracks, through the earth and up to the surface. Above ground, people across the desert saw the sand glowing like stars. The helicopters hovering nearby had to pull back as waves of light rippled across the land. But it wasn't destructive. It was peaceful, calming, like a heartbeat stretching across the world. Inside the chamber, Dr. Voss shielded her eyes, calling out, "Lyra!" For a moment she saw Lyra standing inside the light, her body glowing brighter than ever. Then slowly her shape began to fade, merging with the sphere itself. "Wait!" Voss cried, running forward. "Come back!" But Lyra's voice echoed gently in her mind. "Thank you, Rachel. You showed me kindness when no one else did." And then she was gone. The light dimmed, the tremors stopped, and the chamber fell silent once more. The sphere floated quietly, now calm and still. Dr. Voss fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Aaron walked up behind her, his voice low. "What happened?" Voss wiped her eyes. She saved us." She stopped it. Aaron looked around the chamber. "But she's gone." Voss shook her head. "No, not gone, look." The sphere's surface shimmered faintly, and for a moment, they both saw Lyra's reflection, smiling peacefully. Then the sphere sank slowly into the ground, sealing the chamber in silence once more. Days later, the government closed the entire site. Officially, they called it an energy containment zone. Unofficially, no one spoke of it again. But Dr. Voss never left the area. She built a small research outpost near the ruins, continuing her work in secret. Every night, she would step outside, look at the stars, and whisper, "Good night, Lyra." Sometimes, when the wind blew across the sand, the faint blue light would shimmer just beneath the surface, like a heartbeat still alive. Meanwhile, strange things began to happen around the world. Plants grew faster, the air felt cleaner, and the sky seemed brighter. Scientists couldn't explain it, but Voss knew. Lyra's energy had spread through the earth, healing it slowly, quietly. One evening, Theo, the boy who had once helped Lyra, came to visit Dr. Voss. He had heard rumors about what happened and wanted to know the truth. "Is she really gone?" he asked. Voss smiled gently. "She's part of us now. Every time you see the sky glow blue before dawn, that's her." Theo looked up at the horizon where a soft blue light shimmered faintly before sunrise. "Then she made it home," he said softly. Voss nodded. "Yes, and she made this world a little more like hers." As the morning sun rose over the desert, the sand sparkled with traces of blue light, fading slowly into gold. The world was quiet, peaceful, alive, and somewhere deep beneath the earth, the great sphere pulsed once, softly, like a sigh, before falling silent again. The heart of two worlds had finally found peace.